We're just getting reports of a volcanic explosion.
One day, the world will end. This is the story of just one day.
The object will hit Earth in around 5 hours.
With 5 different endings.
The virus is considered highly contagious.
If you have any of the following symptoms,
Each predicted by scientists.
We're just getting unconfirmed reports of a giant wave heading across the Atlantic.
What's the worst that could happen in just one day?
Directors of the project say that they will go ahead with the experiment. It could cause the destruction of the Earth.
One day.
3,
5 endings.
1.
End day.
Hi, this is Dr. Howell. Please leave a message after the beep.
Hi, Rob, you there? Look, we're in big trouble. I don't know if you've seen the news, but there are hundreds of protesters outside the building here. If we don't do this thing today, it's not gonna happen. Get yourself on a plane to New York as soon as possible.
Hi, Ernie. Yeah, it's me.
4 protesters have been arrested while staging demonstrations against the newly completed TBM experiment facility
Yeah,
on
good.
the east coast of the United
Yeah,
States.
it's everywhere. It's on the news here.
200 people took part in the protests outside what's the world's largest particle accelerator. This scientific facility has been built to study the
we'll get started as soon as I get
building
back.
blocks of nature, but has hit controversy ever since some environmental groups reported fears that the energies created could cause the destruction of the Earth.
Great, I'm leaving in a few minutes. See you in a few hours.
A claim
Thanks, Ernie.
rejected by its deputy director.
The media always likes end-of-the-world stories because, let's face it, they do sell papers. But in the real world of science, the chances of an experiment going wrong are tiny.
But it's this small chance that has protesters so concerned. Many believe that it could be a time bomb of global proportions, and that the accelerator must never be turned on.
Fueled by the fear of a global catastrophe, protesters have attacked some of the scientists as they travel to New York for the experiment.
Well, despite the protesters' tactics, the directors of the project say that they will go ahead with the experiment in the very near future. As leading scientists fly in from around the world, some sources have suggested that it will be carried out later today.
I spoke yesterday to Dr. Howell, the Deputy Director of the TBM Particle Accelerator Facility in New York. Dr. Howell, welcome to the show.
Where to, mate?
The airport, please.
The chances of anything going wrong are a million to 1.
But in theory, we've been told a particle accelerator experiment.
You going anywhere nice?
New York.
Is that business or pleasure?
Business.
Anything is possible. I mean, theoretical science says all kinds of things, like there are parallel universes where different versions of our day exist. You could just as easily say the world would be destroyed by a giant meteor or a massive virus outbreak or something. They're far more likely.
Anyway, it's time for the news. We'll be back to that later.
Come on, lady.
Good morning, and here is the news. We're just getting unconfirmed reports that a volcano has erupted on the island of La Palma. Local witnesses report seeing a huge cloud of smoke.
Recent studies have shown that half the island could collapse into the sea during volcanic activity, and some experts fear that this event could also generate a giant wave.
Would all passengers on flight to the Palma please report to information? Thank you.
And we are just getting unconfirmed reports of a giant wave heading across the Atlantic. Coast Guard officials raised the alarm just minutes ago in response to several Mayday signals from ships off the coast of the Azores.
Hi.
Hi.
Is the 10 o'clock flight to New York already left?
I'm sorry, sir, it's just boarded.
Is there another flight available to New York?
Yes, you're in luck. The 11:10 is available and it's leaving now for gate 13.
Excellent.
Okay.
It's thought that the giant wave, or mega tsunami, was created by a massive landslide that took place earlier today on the volcanic island of La Palma. Eruptions this morning are believed to have split the island into two, collapsing 500 billion tons of rock into the ocean. Witnesses say this impact into the sea created a wave of over 500 meters high. That giant wave is now thought to be heading westwards across the Atlantic towards the coast of America. News that the wave may strike in less than 5 hours was greeted with mixed reactions in New York.
What kind of wave? Sound wave?
In 4 hours?
Yeah.
My God.
But aren't you worried about your own welfare? I mean, if this wave is coming, shouldn't we be getting out of here, all of us?
I don't believe that. I will hear about this. It happened this morning.
Get my bathing suit on, I guess, and just hope for the best. I don't know. I'm beginning to get a little scared.
US fighter jets have been scrambled in an attempt to locate the tsunami that officials fear could be making its way across the Atlantic.
This is Foxtrot Lima 99. I have a sighting. Confirm I have a sighting of the wave. Now deploying camera vision. It's heading west. Repeat, it's heading west.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. 11 a.m. Eastern Seaboard time. The U.S. fighters confirmed the observation of the tsunami in the mid-Atlantic, which we now believe is about 500 feet high and traveling at 500 miles per hour toward the east coast of the United States.
Passengers for flight UK 555 to New York, please report to customer information.
Storm waves, the wavelength is just a few tens of meters, but with mega tsunami, it's hundreds of kilometers. And what this means is that when storm waves break onto a coastline, they break almost immediately. But mega tsunami just keep on coming through the whole length of the wave, and this makes them incredibly powerful and incredibly destructive.
But the advice we are giving is to evacuate up to 3 miles inland on the east coast. We think we are looking at only 2 to 3 hours left to do this.
Unless evacuation plans were incredibly efficient, it would not be enough time to get everybody out of the affected areas.
The tunnel's actually better. We go through the tunnel every day. I think that's the best route.
Might be. We should use our time.
They said 3 hours.
We should use our time. If we have 3 hours, we have plenty of time to get up to the GW bridge and take that.
I would rather spend 1 hour trying to get through the tunnel than
But what if it's not
3 trying to get up time. I think it's enough time. It's never been longer than that.
The tunnel will fill up with water.
It's not going to fill up with water. And we'll be out of it in the next half an hour.
Sightings of the tsunami suggest that it's just 1 hour away from the east coast of the United States. All attempts at dispersing the giant wave have failed.
Hi, Rob. We're being evacuated. We've called off the experiment. I'll call you back. I gotta go.
The east coast of America is is the worst place this could happen. It's not some remote deserted coastline. It's one of the most densely populated coasts in the world. The areas at risk include cities like Miami, parts of Boston, the coastal areas and suburbs of New York.
Get to the highest floor on your building. Minimum safe height is 50 stories. Repeat, do not panic. Get to the highest floor on your building.
How soon? How much time do we have? Anybody know?
I can't see anything. Can you?
I don't know.
They say it's coming from the south.
It's almost inconceivable how much damage this event will cause.
We believe many buildings have survived intact. The wave traveled over 2 miles inland. Many towns and cities are declaring a state of emergency. Rescue efforts are underway across the East Coast. As yet, we have no idea of the true extent of the damage, but no doubt thousands of people have died in this horrific event.
Because we've never experienced these things, we don't think that they're going to happen to us. We just ignore them. But these sorts of events have occurred throughout geological history. They're not going to stop happening just because we're around. La Palma is going to collapse into the North Atlantic. It's not a question of if, it's just a question of when.
Hi, Ernie. Yeah, it's me.
More than 200 people took part in the protests outside what's the world's largest particle accelerator. Some environmental groups reported fears that the energies created could cause the destruction of the Earth, a claim rejected by its deputy director.
In theory, anything is possible. I mean, theoretical science says all kinds of things, like there are parallel universes where different versions of our day exist. You could just as easily say the world would be destroyed by a giant meteor or a massive virus outbreak or something. They're far more likely.
Scientists from around the world are making their way to the TBM particle accelerator facility in New York.
The airport, please.
going anywhere nice?
New York.
Is that business or pleasure?
Business.
Come on, lady.
We'll be back to that later. Reports are coming in that there's been a series of explosions in the Middle East. Local witnesses have reported
Well, we can go straight to our correspondent, James Young, who captured the whole incident on camera. James, can you just talk us through what's happening?
Well, we were awoken in the early hours by the sound of explosions. The night sky was lit up in the east. You can see from this night vision footage that there seem to be what look like several missiles heading across the sky. Are you in? Are you in? Is the camera rolling? We can hear some explosions happening now on the other side of the ridge just over there. I don't know if you can see, but there seem to be some kind of missiles coming down in the sky. They seem to be impacting on the east side of the town there. See it more clearly. They might not be there in a minute. So get in the front. It seems that the targets for the attack were completely indiscriminate. Strangely, though, for this area, no military forces are claiming responsibility.
Reports have confirmed that last night's explosions across were a direct result of meteorite impacts. It's not clear why these meteorites were missed by space tracking facilities.
I'm a bit late for my flight. Is there any way,
You can try turning left up here. The trouble is it's likely to be as bad as it is at the moment.
Yeah, go for it. That'd be great if you would, please. Yeah.
The hunt is on to locate a killer meteor approaching the Earth, and astronomers claim that last night's craters in the Middle East were caused by advanced fragments from a much larger near-Earth object. An asteroid large enough to destroy a capital city strike the Earth on average twice a century, and it's thought that the approaching meteor has avoided previous detection since its approach through space has been obscured by the brightness of the sun. The hunt is on to locate the object before any countermeasures become too late.
The first indication that we have of the doomsday asteroid could be the first shock wave hitting the top of the atmosphere 5 seconds before impact.
This is an announcement. The boarding gate for the 10:05 flight to New York is now closed. Repeat, the boarding gate is now closed.
Scientists are voicing concerns that last night's meteorites could just be fragments from a bigger yet undocumented dead comet. Although downplayed by government officials, ground-based surveillance facilities are now looking for signs of any larger earthbound hazards. They're expected to make a further announcement within the hour.
Hi.
Hi.
Is the 10 o'clock flight to New York already left?
I'm sorry, sir, it's just boarded.
Is there another flight available to New York?
Yes, you're in luck. The 11:10 is available and it's leaving now for gate 13.
Excellent.
Okay.
Now we're going to go live to Washington, D.C. for the latest official statement.
Several observations at the ground-based surveillance facilities have confirmed the existence of a 100-meter-wide near-Earth object. This means that there's a 90% chance the object will hit Earth in around 5 hours. We think it will strike the Earth approximately 10 miles north of Berlin.
The German government has started to inform people in the affected areas on how to prepare, and they're urging...
80%iger Wahrscheinlichkeit im Bereich 53 Grad nördlicher Breite und 13 Grad östlicher Länge aufschlagen wird. Dies entspricht einem Gebiet etwa 30 Kilometer nördlich von Berlin, mit etwa 20.000 Stundenkilometern auf die Erde zu. Das ist mehrfach Berlin. Wie wir inzwischen erfahren konnten, bewegt sich der Gas.
Following the discovery of a possible meteorite strike on Berlin, evacuation plans have begun to get underway. The UN has called an emergency session.
Passengers of flight UK 555 to New York, please move through to the departure lounge. Please move through to the departure lounge. Thank you.
Our government is now in direct contact with German and UK officials with regard to a possible countermeasure to avert any potential disaster.
However, the US, UK and Germany have left the talks in order to finalize emergency plans, which, according to the Pentagon sources, include the launching of nuclear weapons.
It's believed that the UK and German governments are supporting a clarion call by the United States for the immediate launch of nuclear missiles. They aim to detonate the nuclear warheads just off the surface of the approaching meteor. It's hoped that an explosion near to the meteor will change its trajectory, pushing it away from the Earth. However, some scientists oppose the measure, claiming it is too much of a gamble. They believe that the explosion could merely break it into huge pieces of rock that will rain down on Earth like cluster bombs.
It would seem that a big nuclear weapon detonated either on the surface or drilled inside an asteroid would be the answer to this problem. I mean, we've been trained from watching movies like Star Wars that if we were to do that, the asteroid would disappear in a cloud of vapor.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is the captain speaking. I'm sorry to have to tell you that our departure has been delayed. I will let you know as soon as we have some more information. We'll leave the entertainment system on for you for the time being.
From the space station, anytime now we should see the nuclear missiles detonate in an attempt to disintegrate the meteor.
Okay, got it. Signal tilt up. Counting down to 10. Should be on your left side. Okay, there. We have visual confirmation. Impact in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Impact. We have an impact. We have...
Okay, well, it looks like we've lost that signal. We'll work on getting that back. But it would appear that the missiles were unsuccessful. We'll try and confirm that as soon as we can.
Matteo!
But just to recap, it would appear that the missiles were unsuccessful. We'll try and confirm that as soon as we can.
Ladies and gentlemen,
I'm sorry to have to inform you that due to the risk of a meteor strike on Berlin, all flights have been cancelled. Please disembark from the aircraft and return to the departure lounge.
Now, as you can see, there is no one to be seen on the streets of Berlin. The whole city is completely deserted. Yet even though there are no more trains out of Berlin, many people are gathering in underground stations. The advice seems to be that if you can't get out of town, then get as deep underground as possible.
Okay, ein Take noch. Vor einer Stunde wurde bestätigt, dass... Okay, nee, komm, lass uns gehen, lass uns... Run.
Just to remind viewers that you're watching a live broadcast from Berlin. Anytime now we should see the first signs of the meteor entering the atmosphere.
Unspecified number of giant meteorites has struck Berlin. The catastrophe has been devastating. The number of deaths has not been reported yet, but it could be stretching into the millions. The entire infrastructure of Berlin has broken down, and the emergency services are struggling to reach the worst affected areas.
The question is not whether or not we will have a large impact in the future, but simply when.
Hi, Ernie.
The deputy director of the TBM facility was asked to assess the safety of the proposed experiment.
The experiment is run in a controlled environment. I mean, the chances of something happening and going wrong are billions to one, yet the potential benefits are huge.
Studies have shown that it is possible for these experiments to create one of the most destructive forces in the universe, a black hole. Black holes are quite simply gravity gone mad. An object of such concentrated matter, its gravitational pull is insatiable. Nothing can escape, not even light itself. Anything that gets close is sucked into oblivion.
Dr. Howell, welcome to the show. So what is all the fuss about? You guys can't really cause the end of the world, can you?
Well, if it happens, come and see me and I'll give you $1 million.
Well, make that £1 million and you've got a deal. Anyway, it's time for the news.
Good morning. The main story today is the airport security alert in London. A flight from the Far East is being held on the runway following the discovery of a dead passenger. Airport officials say that there is no evidence at the moment to link the death with the deadly virus that is sweeping through the Far East.
Biochemical experts have confirmed the victim found on board the plane is suspected of having the same contagious virus that has claimed the lives of over 200,000 people across the Far East.
We'll bring you any updates on that story as soon as we have it.
You going anywhere nice?
New York.
Is that business or pleasure?
Business.
Transport authorities are still trying to recall several passengers who were on board the flight UK 009. Fears have grown that the missing passengers who've already left the airport may be contaminated with a deadly virus that's already claimed one life in the UK.
authorities are remaining cautious after a man collapsed and died in London's King's Cross station. It's believed to be the first confirmed case of the deadly flu virus in the UK.
Modern travel by aircraft is a huge concern because, you know, you're in Hong Kong, you're at the epicenter, you know, of a new outbreak, chicken flu outbreak or SARS. You know, you're feeling all right. You get on the plane. No, I was there a few weeks ago. Get on the plane. 9 hours later, you're walking out of Heathrow. Get on the tube system. You're in one of the biggest cities in the world. Suddenly you're not feeling too well. You say, oh, jet lag. But you could be spreading a new virus.
The police urgently need to trace all passengers that were on flight UK 009. If anyone was on flight UK 009 or had a relative or friend on that flight, would they please call the following?
Hi Mum, hope you had a good holiday. I'm trying to get hold of you. I've tried you on your mobile, but you're not answering. There's been something on the news about your flight, so don't know where you might be at the moment. I'm going to drive over. Can you give me a call as soon as you get this message so I know everything's okay? Bye.
Scientists have confirmed that the killer virus...
Come on, lady.
With more than 200,000 deaths in the Far East already, many fear we are facing a plague of pandemic proportions.
This is to announce that the boarding gate for flight 1005 to New York is now closed. Repeat, boarding gate is now closed.
The last time Britain had to deal with a mass outbreak was when Spanish flu broke out in 1918. That made the bubonic plague, the Black Death, almost look like a picnic. It was the end of World War I, and millions of soldiers returning home were spreading the disease worldwide. One of the classic outbreaks was a group of South African soldiers who returned home to Cape Town on the boat. They tried to quarantine them because they knew that this infection was already on the move. But how can you quarantine a group of 19-year-olds who survived? They wanted to go home. They wanted to go home and see their mothers, their girlfriends. They took the Western Railway line up the western coast. They took the sidings. They got home. When they got there, their parents called a party. It was the homecoming party. They would invite their friends and neighbours from 10 miles away. They came by horse and cart. But that weekend, this virus spreading up the railway line exploded and 250,000 people died. In the space of 1 year, the total number of deaths is still inconceivable.
We don't know, even all these years later, exactly how many people died. I think there's a consensus of 50 million, but the upper limit might reach even 90 million. Certainly the older figures of 20 million are just too low.
And experts predict that there will be another worldwide pandemic.
We are sure that a pandemic of influenza will happen again. It is not science fiction. It will happen.
Flight UK 555 to New York is now boarding. All passengers please make their way to gate 13. Thank you.
As officials urge the people of London not to make any unnecessary travel, the police force is preparing to close down major thoroughfares to and from London, effectively quarantining the area.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have now reached our cruising altitude of 40,000 feet. We expect to be landing in New York in about 5 hours' time.
After a suspected outbreak of the killer virus in a hospital in Vancouver, the city officials are urging people to stay indoors for their own safety.
If you have any of the following symptoms, high chills, shivering, or severe headaches, you are asked to stay indoors and call the emergency helpline now appearing on your screens. Repeat, stay inside. Do not attempt to leave your homes.
The government is now imposing army roadblocks around London to try and halt the exodus. Suspected cases in the capital have now risen to over 100 since the flu-like disease was identified. As a result, services are closed. People are advised to stay indoors and avoid making any non-essential travel.
due to recent information regarding the spread of the flu-like virus in Great Britain, the U.S. government regrets it has no other option than to quarantine all inbound flights from the UK. This is a safety precaution due to the highly contagious nature of the disease.
Despite warnings to stay indoors, many families are still trying to leave the infected areas. But with petrol stations closed, some people are resorting to stealing cars in order to flee the city.
The death toll in London is now suspected of having reached over 1,000 people. This brings the total world casualties to over 300,000.
All remaining residents are reminded that
No.
is a criminal offense. The Army has authorization to leave all
This is your captain. I'm sorry to have to inform you, but the airport authorities here at JFK have quarantined this aircraft. So please keep your seatbelts on and remain in your seats. An isolation area is being prepared, and shortly you will be escorted from the aircraft.
As the virus spreads worldwide, the Army have taken control of central London, limiting heavily the movement of people in the center of the capital.
In the last hour, France, Spain, and Canada have also reported suspected cases.
The government has urged people to stay indoors as the worst-hit cities of London, Manchester, Edinburgh, and Belfast are effectively quarantined. Security forces have been instructed to halt all travel in and out of these cities. And is still growing.
Repeat, stay inside. Do not attempt to leave your homes.
All hospitals in the public sector have now created additional isolation rooms and wards. The City of London is effectively closed for business. The Army are monitoring the supply of food to local supermarkets as fears rise that the death toll could surpass 100,000.
It's not a question of, is there going to be another pandemic? The answer is yes. There will be another outbreak. The only thing is we don't know when.
Hi, Ernie.
The Deputy Director of the TBM facility was asked to assess the safety of the proposed experiments, the first of which includes colliding particles together at near the speed of light.
Early this morning, it was decided by directors at the TBM facility that the first of the particle experiments would go ahead today. Now, considering the public fear that has been generated by recent reports in the media, we would like to allay any concerns by adding to what many leading experts have already said, that the TBM particle acceleration facility is completely safe. We'd like to congratulate the team and wish them every success for the experiments tonight. Any questions?
In theory, anything is possible. I mean, theoretical science says all kinds of things, like there are parallel universes where different versions of our day exist. You could just as easily say the world would be destroyed by a giant meteor or a massive virus outbreak or something. They're far more likely.
Anyway, it's time for the news. We'll be back to that later.
Come on, lady.
Good morning. A powerful earthquake has hit the American state of Wyoming. Yellowstone National Park is the worst affected area. Major roads and highways have been torn apart by the tremors.
Local rangers are said to be working as fast as they can to try and resolve the problem. Numerous mild quakes have been recorded at Yellowstone over the past year, leading some experts to warn that more violent activity might be on the way.
Yellowstone Park in Wyoming in the US has millions of visitors every year, but not many of them are aware that underneath lies the biggest volcano known to mankind, capable of wreaking unimaginable destruction. It's known as a supervolcano. Like a normal volcano, a supervolcano begins when a column of magma rises from deep within the earth, but with supervolcanoes, rather than breaking through the surface, the magma forms a giant reservoir of molten rock and gases under the ground and builds up enormous pressures over thousands of years. The magma chamber beneath Yellowstone is 70 kilometers long by 30 kilometers wide and 10 kilometers deep. It is the biggest known to mankind. Its eruptions are thousands of times more powerful than a normal volcano. If Yellowstone goes off again, it will be catastrophic for the US and eventually for the entire world.
This is the last call for Dr. Robert Howe for Flight 1005 to New York. Robert Howe, final call.
The volcanic region of Yellowstone is one of America's most popular tourist attractions, and many visitors are still trapped within the park boundaries since mild earthquakes damaged access roads. Authorities are advising visitors to remain in their cars and await assistance due to growing fears that the recent tremors could cause volcanic activity.
This is awesome!
The last time a supervolcano erupted over 70,000 years ago, it reduced man's population to a mere 5,000 people. So how likely is it that Yellowstone will erupt again? Well, scientists have studied the layers of ash around the crater and have reached a worrying conclusion. The last 3 eruptions have occurred with a frightening regularity.
Quite amazingly, we realized that there was a cycle of caldera-forming eruptions, these huge volcanic eruptions, about every 600,000 years.
And with the last eruption already over 600,000 years ago, Yellowstone is due to erupt again any day.
Dad, do you think it's gonna go?
No, don't think so, honey.
Really?
No, it's just rumblings, that's all. Yeah, it's what they do.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. You may now unfasten your seatbelts and move around the cabin.
The warning signs were spotted a few years ago. One scientist surveyed the height of the land at Yellowstone and compared it to an identical survey from 50 years earlier.
The surveyor said to me, "There's something wrong." And he said, "It's not me. It's got to be something else." So we went through all the measurements again, tried to be very careful.
But he discovered that his original calculations had been correct. The ground around the caldera had risen by nearly a meter. This led others to believe that the bulge was due to enormous pressures from the magma chamber below, a claim yet to be confirmed by leading scientists.
excite your readers, but let me say that the government is working closely with leading experts to clarify if this small eruption today could lead to anything larger, a much larger explosion. Now, we do know that Yellowstone Park is sitting atop a giant volcano, a supervolcano, but it hasn't erupted for thousands of years.
I did hear that some tourists died.
We would like to reassure the public that despite the recent break in the surface caused by the minor eruption today, that the chances of it leading to a much larger supervolcanic eruption are very slim indeed. Yeah.
The climatic effects globally from that eruption will be produced by the plume of material that goes up into the atmosphere. That'll spread worldwide and will have a cooling effect that will probably knock out the growing season on a global basis.
Diverted to Toronto for refueling. We will then be heading straight back to the UK.
For 100 kilometers around ground zero of the volcano, everything has been incinerated. Officials fear 1 million people may be dead, and scientists are warning of a volcanic winter.
It's really not a question of if they'll go off, it's a question of when, because sooner or later, one of these large super eruptions will happen.
Hi, Ernie.
It's hoped that this experiment will help shed light on how the universe began, although some fear the energies created have the potential to destroy the Earth.
The experiment will take place in a machine called a particle accelerator. Particles are collided at nearly the speed of light in an attempt to recreate the conditions at the beginning of the universe, also known as the Big Bang.
Lady.
As leading scientists fly in from around the world, some sources have suggested that this experiment will be carried out later today.
In 1999, the US government commissioned a report investigating the risks from particle accelerator experiments. There were fears that it may be possible to create one of the most destructive forces in the universe, a black hole. Black holes are quite simply gravity gone mad. An object of such concentrated matter, its gravitational pull is insatiable. Nothing can escape, not even light itself. Anything that gets close is sucked into oblivion.
Stand clear and close the doors. This train is for JFK Terminal 1. Early this morning, it was decided by directors of the TBM facility that the first of the particle experiments would go ahead today. Now, considering the public fear that has been generated by recent reports in the media, we would like to allay any concerns by adding to what many leading experts have already said, that the TBM particle acceleration facility is completely safe. We'd like to congratulate the team and wish them every success for the experiments tonight. Any questions?
Taxi! Tessie, yes.
Later today, a TBM spokesperson has admitted that it is possible to create a black hole inside the particle accelerator. However, they claim that this type of black hole would be incredibly small and evaporate extremely quickly. But despite these reassurances, protesters are continuing to gather outside the TBM test site.
Oh, could you exit here, please? Thanks.
Well, these scenes are live from the TBM facility where it's believed that Dr. Howell has slipped through the protesters and got into the building. There's no sign of him yet, but we do believe he has actually broken the line and gotten into the building.
Test will begin in 5 minutes.
The protesters are warning that in addition to a black hole, there is another terrible danger that could be unleashed by the machine. Scientists have calculated that a mysterious new particle could be created, a killer strangelet. In theory, strangelets have the power to devour the Earth. Millions of times heavier than gold, they have a gravitational force so great that nothing can resist it.
All teams report your destination.
Everything that strangelet touches changes into a strangelet. So if you make one in a room, for example, then all the atoms in the room will start falling inwards towards the strangelet, and the strangelet will suck in that matter and grow and get bigger and bigger.
Okay, just as we planned it. Test 1 to 5. Dr. Howell, you do the honors, please.
The chance of this happening, I said, is like you winning the major prize on the lottery 3 weeks in succession. The problem is that people believe it is possible to win the lottery 3 weeks in succession, otherwise they wouldn't enter it.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Ladies and gentlemen, we seem to have some heavy turbulence ahead. We would like to ask all passengers to return to their seats and fasten their seat belts. We are experiencing some technical difficulties, but this is nothing to be concerned about.
In these particle experiments, we're recreating the big experiment that nature did just after the Big Bang. Nothing untoward came out of that. Nothing untoward is going to come out of these experiments. It makes great science fiction, great entertainment, great television. But on this, we can sleep easy.
Oh, tomorrow never comes. Oh, tomorrow never comes. Now you tell me that you love me, but tomorrow never comes.